Difficult. Women.
Hey.
Hey, girl.
Hi.
Welcome to 2020.
Oh my God. Everything's different. Cars are flying around and people are on
I just had sex with a robot.
Oh, good.
I love it.
It's so great.
It's
the future is amazing.
I know.
Aren't we past Blade Runner days? Isn't 2019?
Yeah,
that's Blade Runner.
Creepy
Man, we
thing
are
now.
in the future.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, welcome, y'all. I'm Marie.
I'm Katie. This is Difficult Women Podcast.
That's right. And we're in a band called Reformed Whores.
It's a really good band.
It's pretty good.
I hope one of your resolutions after you listen to the resolution episode was to start listening to our band more.
Watch our videos. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Please let that be somebody's New Year's
exactly
resolution.
What should be someone's resolution. I don't know.
Yeah. How have you been? I've missed you. We haven't seen each other for
oh
weeks.
My gosh. It's been crazy. I forgot what you look like. No, I don't know. No, it's been good. I needed the break, so that's been nice.
Yes, it's always nice to get the fuck out of New York City.
Oh yeah.
But we're back, baby. We're back and here for you all, our Horios.
Yeah.
And what better way to give it to them properly other than to share with them a promo code from our favorite website.
Let's just jump right in.
Yeah, might as well.
Do
it.
Free stuff is awesome, but free stuff to spice up your bedroom is even better.
Select almost any one item for 50% off, and then Adam and Eve loads on the free stuff.
Enter offer code HORIO at checkout and get 10 tantalizing free gifts.
A sexy item for him, a special gift for her, and a third item you'll both enjoy.
And 6 free spicy movies.
Ooh! Plus, free shipping.
That's HORIO, WHOREO, HORIO at adamandeve.com. Ooh. That's a good, what? I was just thinking it's a good, like if you didn't get everything you wanted for Christmas, that's the thing you can buy yourself.
Exactly. You do you, boo.
Yeah.
Get yourself a gift.
Why not?
You know?
Treat yourself.
Treat yourself. Oh, well, we got a fun little something in the internet world.
A little gift.
Yeah, it was a little gift, a little present for us hoes that we wanted to share with you. It's the opposite of troll time. It's positive
time. What is it?
Happy hour.
Happy hour.
We love happy hour.
Okay, great. We got there.
What do we got, Katie?
Well, we've got a really lovely review that really we all of our reviews have been really wonderful, and we're so excited. And it was just nice to get this one. This one hit our hearts in a positive way. Mm-hmm. Do you want to read it for us, Marie?
Absolutely. So if you haven't, please rate, review us, subscribe to our podcast. If you're listening to our podcast right now, you probably have, hopefully. But if you haven't written a review, please do so. Like this lovely person, Noodle Nose.
Noodle Nose is such a lovely.
Noodle Nose 8 left us an awesome comment that we got a couple weeks ago that we wanted to share. Please stay true to your mission, providing intelligent, passionate, and wise counsel to women and men everywhere. Well, at least to men with the hearts and minds willing to think and evolve. Most of all, thank you for making me laugh with every song and podcast.
That's nice. Noodle Nose gets it.
Noodle Nose totally
Noodle Nose 8 gets it. I don't know about Noodle Nose 7, but Noodle Nose 8 is on it.
Yeah, that's such a nice, those types of reviews keep us going and just get us excited for more episodes and
make us feel like because we're doing what we were set out to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we're off track, let us know.
Yeah. And it's really nice. Everyone's given us a 5-star review except one person gave us 1 star. And,
we hunted them down.
We hunted them down over the holidays. Katie liked it. I did not.
Oh, yeah.
No, it was great. Anyway, thank you, Noodle Nose 8, for doing that. And please write reviews for us, folks, if you haven't already.
Yeah. Well, so Noodle Nose, we're just like saying like a regular person. Noodle Nose 8 did hit on a good point, which is trying to be serious here. Right?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes,
continue.
Moment. I'm just going really
continue.
Noodle Nose realized made a good point in that we're trying to empower women, but also men. Mm-hmm. And so today, that's a perfect segue into our topic today. Which is about men's health, but specifically men's mental health, but specifically what kind of brought this up. It's a movement that's coming out of New Zealand called Is Not Your Rehab. And it was started by this gentleman, Matt Brown, who started a barbershop, and it became a
shack in his backyard.
In a shack in his backyard.
So
and
cool.
His hair actually is really cool. He's really good at hair. You wouldn't guess it from the shack, but but he's really good at hair. And it brings men together and gives them a place to talk and have about their feelings and all the stuff that's gone on, and to relate to each other and to feel not so alone. So his story, there's all this writings about him if you want to look him up and look
in
at
his TED Talk.
That's what I was going to say. He's got this amazing TED Talk where he breaks down kind of where he comes from and why he started all of this.
Yeah. So he was physically abused at a younger age by his father. And what really hit was when he was talking about Christmas and how Christmas can be really hard for a lot of families. And for his Christmas, he remembers when he was a child, his father hitting his mother with the Christmas tree. And just the amount of physical abuse that his father would do to his mother. And then having so much rage inside him and not really knowing what to do with that type of emotion growing up. And a lot of men, have experienced past trauma like that also. And because of society, we don't give them space to feel and process these really awful experiences, and then how to process especially these emotions. And so he started this organization through his barbershop, and I guess he does it with his wife also, who he says really, he wasn't able to be a full human being until he met his wife, who allowed him to talk about this past trauma.
Yeah.
And that I just thought it was so interesting that in this small barbershop, these young men would come to him, in the chair, talk openly about some of their own experiences. I personally, I before this, watching that TED Talk, I've passed barbershops all the time in New York City, and shame on me, but I look in and I'm like, those boys are, locker room talk, or like, what are those guys talking about? Of course, like I would assume that it might be something derogatory towards women. That's bad on me. But then to hear that actually this man, as Matt Brown, is giving a space to allow men to really open up and be vulnerable.
Yeah. And I think that barbershops for some people have been places, I mean, I wouldn't know because I don't get my hair cut at a barbershop, but from what I understand, that barbershops are places that people can come together and it can be a community kind of place.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he even says it in the TED Talk. It's like, it's not that they don't talk about locker room stuff. And it's like, it's not just all serious therapy talk all the time, but it does give people a chance to open up and share experiences too, so that people don't feel so alone. So, and sometimes it comes out in a joking manner, but it's not, it's a safe space for people to open up. So it's not like you get ribbed or shut down if you were trying to express a feeling, which I think a lot of men tend to experience in their communities and groups, where like, if a man shows any emotion, everyone's like, no, you're man gay up. Or you're a woman, or you're being womanly or whatever.
Well, in the TED Talk that really struck me was when he had that story of one of his clients coming in to get a haircut, and the young man started crying and while he was getting his cut, and saying that it was supposed to be his last haircut because he was wanting to commit suicide. And that just opening up to Matt and talking about some really heavy things saved his life.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's cool about this whole She Is Not Your Rehab thing, so at this point we've been hearing all this going like, oh cool, it's like a place for men to open up and communicate. So why would it be called She Is Not Your Rehab? Well, it's called She Is Not Your Rehab because one of the issues that comes up around men that aren't able to express their emotions and deal with their traumas is that they internalize those things, push them down, it turns into anger, like Marie was saying, and then they take a lot of that out on their domestic partners and their children. And that's a big reason why we have this like cycle of domestic violence. Children are abused, they grow up, they aren't able to express their abuse and deal with their trauma, and then they abuse people in their life, their children, and it just goes on and on.
Cycle. Yeah.
So I really appreciate the fact that what he's saying is you need, and I think this goes for everybody. So, I mean, definitely this is about like men and men that feel like they don't have a space. But I think that this goes for every basically human being on the planet, that we all kind of have different levels of trauma in our childhoods and stuff. And we all walk around with that trauma. And when we don't deal with it, it
manifests into something.
And something weird. And it usually affects the other people around you. So, and this is a phrase I'd heard before, but it was like nice to hear it from him too. This idea that when you're traumatized as a kid, that's not your fault. You did not do anything to deserve that trauma, no matter how little or big that trauma was. It has nothing to do with who you are as a person, even though that's how you take it in like that. But it is 100% your responsibility to deal with it later in your life, to work through it, to look inside yourself, to work through those things, because it does affect the people around you, no matter how big or small that trauma was. And it's especially noticeable when that trauma was so big and so huge, and it was a domestic violence situation. Like if you were beaten by your father as a kid, your likelihood of you beating your children is much higher, you know? So unless you can stop and take responsibility for your own mental health. And that's where the problem has been, that men are not like allowed to, and people have not generally been allowed to, but we're starting to move into these spaces where people are taking that more seriously, and certainly women, I think, have had a little bit more leeway to talk about their feelings, and process it, and with their girlfriends, and it seems like it's more allowed for women to talk about these things.
Yeah, we're supposed to open up to our girlfriends and tell them our deepest, darkest secrets. It's almost encouraged as a woman. Yeah. But with men, it's like, no, you have to be this one type of person. Yeah. You have to be strong and absolutely not vulnerable. But when you've had these past experiences that you're not able to process in a healthy way, right? Then, I mean, of course the cycle, but of course, but it is, cycle, of course, yeah. But the cycle terrible. Then continues,
right? And the other thing that made me think about was sort of how. So two things. One is that as a woman, if you're like a really, staunch feminist and you're saying like, who cares what a man feels? And like, they've felt enough or whatever. I know there's maybe some other. I'll tell you why it affects you. It affects you as a woman because these men that are damaged are injuring women and children. Right? That's what we're just saying that. So that's why it is a feminist issue. It is a woman's issue to make sure that men are healthy. And it is a man's issue to make sure men are healthy. But what occurred to me as I was kind of watching all this stuff is, we're in this stage right now in our social political thing where some of us more liberal folks are really worried about these steps that feel like we're taking, or people are trying to push us backwards. And we were talking about incels and things like that, but these men that want to push women back into the kitchen and push women back into their roles, their feminine roles, and that women should be, dainty and women shouldn't be so loud and brash.
Right. Just know your role. Like, let's go back to the 50s.
Yeah. And you should be feminine. And if you're not feminine, then you're not a woman. And if you're not a woman, then you're not worthy. And a woman should be lesser than a man because she's weaker. Right. So all of those tropes, we're like, what the fuck? Like, this is fucking crazy. And
we're over that. It's 2020, y'all. Come on.
It's like terrifying to like feel like you're getting pushed back into those like those tropes. But it occurred to me as I was listening to all these things that so the opposite of the weak, right, is strong masculine man. The opposite of like a woman in the kitchen is a man out in the fields with his gun or whatever it is. Like what are these opposite, right? So if a woman is supposed to be soft and feminine and quiet and submissive, then a man is supposed to be strong and controlling and never cry, right? And always be a man, and always be, boys will be boys and men don't cry and a man up and all these like all that terminology and all those ideas of what quote unquote masculinity is perpetuating this cycle of violence because it prohibits guys from being able to talk about these things because that's a girly thing to do. So it's like it hit me really hard and I kept thinking about Mike Pence specifically.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I was thinking about how Mike Pence is like,
it's all pent up in that Pence boy.
Oh my God. But he's really pushing for this, like we're going to push women back into the old days. But when you push women back into the old days, that means you're pushing men back into the old days. And back in the old days means men unable to express themselves. You know?
Well, right now in 2020, actually male suicide is rising at an alarming rate.
Yeah.
And they're even calling it maybe like a silent epidemic.
Right.
Which is absolutely terrifying. Some other statistics, let's see, 9% of men experience depression on a daily basis. That's 6 million men in the world. More than 3 million men struggle with anxiety daily. And then of 3.5 million diagnosed as schizophrenic by the age of 30, more than 90% are men.
Yeah, I saw
That's
that
wild,
90%
actually.
of people diagnosed with schizophrenia are men.
And then an estimated 10 million men in the US will suffer from an eating disorder in their lifetime. That's another whole other thing. I mean, we assume that eating disorders are just target women, but men, it's again that like it's this unattainable image of a man, this like, you know, real strong 6-pack abs.
Yeah.
Hello, I love it, but really, seriously, it's so hard to get. Please.
Well, I mean, but for real, it's so
the
hard
last
to get.
time I had a 6-pack man was Clay Anderson when I was 15 years old.
God, it was just like, and that wasn't a
I didn't even know what to do with
he
it
just
back
didn't
then.
have any like body
I didn't do
fat on him
anything.
because he was 16.
That was just him.
Yeah, no, I think that like, and we've been sort of seeing that as a trend anyway, that like women have been having to deal with their images for a really long time because it's been put on women to like be perfect looking, and it's I think a little bit of a newer thing for men. Although I don't think it's not like it never existed. I think that that's part of what this whole episode is about, is that there was one quote from like Arnold Schwarzenegger, my hero, and he was saying that even
Your hero.
my hero Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be a buck, that he was like would look at himself in the mirror during his bodybuilding days and just want to puke because he just thought he was so disgusting. And you're like,
body dysmorphia is a real thing for men,
and that was
too.
in like the 60s or 70s,
Right.
80s, 70s. I mean, so that's so it's I think that I don't mean to dismiss it as a new thing, a new phenomena, because it probably has been around longer than we realized, but then nobody talked about it. Because that wasn't a thing men were they were just supposed to deal with it and like whatever they were having. A couple weeks ago, and this was like I mean, this is kind of late now, but I still was thinking about it, that Kumail Nanjiani.
Yes.
He posted a picture on Instagram because he's going to be in some Marvel movie and he's so ripped. I mean, he looks so amazing. I mean, just some comedian is some regular guy comedian that like looks insanely ripped now.
We did a show with him in LA
we
years
did.
ago, and he did not look like that.
No, I mean, he's always cute, but he looks like amazing now. But he wrote a great Instagram post.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, he was talking about how he worked with the top studio that then paid for him to have the top trainers, the top nutritionists, and it took a year to look like that. I thought it was unbelievable that he was just so transparent with what it took to look like that. And last night when I was on the subway, I overheard a couple talking about it too, and they were saying, you know, how they'd seen it a couple weeks ago, and just how honest he was about the truth, about how to actually get that body, and how most people think that, you know, these people, it just happens and it's no big thing, you know,
or like there's something wrong with you if you like you don't have enough
willpower to like actually attain that. But yeah, but it takes so much money.
Yeah, it takes money
to get to look like that.
And
then
time.
he thanked his wife, which I thought was really
nice.
cool.
That's really nice.
And she had also posted, I think, a picture of him playing video games. It was like, don't let
don't forget.
Yeah. And then did you see Moshe Kasher posted a picture of him like in the hot tub like years ago with like a little belly?
Oh, amazing. I love it. I mean, it's great. And I think that he gets it. Like,
yeah,
that, you know,
totally. It's all good fun.
But I think that it's nice that he gets it, right? And that he's letting other people know what it's all about.
Yeah,
because I
it
think
took
that
a
part
year.
and for a woman or a man, the idea that like people try to make it seem like it's like, oh, you just have to work out and eat healthy. You know what I mean? That's so damaging because, and I've gone through this myself where you're like, why am I not? I mean, I'm trying so hard and I've been doing it for 4 weeks. Like, why don't I look perfect? And it's like, because it doesn't take 4 weeks. It takes 12 months,
right?
You know,
right.
And it takes 6 trainers and it takes you eating like porridge all day, every day for a year.
I'll never forget, you know, my place of work, we work with a lot of celebrities, and this one celebrity, I can't name the name, but this woman, she made us run out and get her juice, like just a ton of, fancy juice from Juice Press or whatever. And she did not have a single piece of solid food all day long. And they were saying that she's prepping for the Oscars and that she's just juicing. That's all she does is drink juice.
And she had to do it to make sure she
barely drink a juice like for breakfast.
I mean, I drink a juice with my lunch.
Yeah.
It's like, that's how I do. That's how I juice.
Yeah. With the burger.
A juice with my burger, a juice with my salad, a juice with my spaghetti.
But that's why it's so amazing that he was just so honest about really what it took to get that body. Yeah. Because that's just going to make younger men understand that it's hard. It's attainable if you have all these other resources.
Totally. And if that's how you want to spend your time and stuff too, then fine. But but that's maybe there's other ways to live your life so that you're not miserable. And if you want to
pay me millions of dollars to get that fit, sure, I'll do it.
Oh my God. Oh
I'll
yeah.
do it.
Sure. No problem.
But
so wait, I don't know if you caught this in this is the one that blew me away in terms of men not dealing with their mental health. It mentioned in the article that we had both read, it mentioned how it's becoming more public that men are also dealing with postpartum depression.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Isn't that, I caught my eye and I was like, I have to look into this more. So I looked into it more and was like, how can they, because when we think about postpartum depression, I think frequently we relate it to women's hormonal changes. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that is part of what postpartum is. And I'm sure a big part for women for that, so that you get depressed after you have your baby, and maybe because your like hormones are all crazy.
We're not doctors.
We're not doctors.
If you haven't caught on.
I don't know yet. It's not called Dr. Women. I don't know. Is that a good name for it?
For doctor?
We're Dr. Women.
Dr. Women.
Here we are. Anyway, but back to me. So that they were saying that men experience a lot of postpartum anxiety and postpartum depression, and that women experience a similar kind, but we don't think about it as much.
Yeah.
And what it manifests it as, and I was like, oh my God, of course, is this. It can be like a fear of like breaking the baby. So you're either like really, really, really like hovery about the baby and always like worried about who's touching it and what's coming next. It can also manifest in unwanted thoughts because all of a sudden you have this like tiny little, very, very fragile thing. And there's some people that will just start having these unwanted thoughts of like stabbing their baby. It also said in that article, by the way, that like almost 100% of parents have an unwanted thought like that at some point, and nobody talks about it because they're like, oh, it's so horrible, I can't say it out loud. But they're saying it's very normal to have a passing thought of like stabbing your baby or dropping your baby or doing something like damaging to it. And they said it's kind of a natural thing only because it's just so jarring that the thing is so small and fragile, and that
you're responsible
for it, and you're like, and you start having these crazy thoughts about it. And that's normal. But then for when it becomes a problem, it tends to be associated with an OCD, so that you can't stop thinking about it. And it's not that they said that don't get that mistaken or confused with someone who's like going through some psychosis and will murder their baby or could potentially murder their baby. They're saying a lot of these unwanted thought people would never, ever, 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 ever murder or even molest or anything creepy like that. They think about it and then it drives them insane that they can't stop thinking about it, and it makes them depressed and anxious. But it doesn't mean that those people are like have a very, very, very like a 0% chance of acting on those things, but they don't feel that way. They are worried that something might happen. So then they're living with this like extreme stress around this new baby, and they don't talk about it. And then they're just like, and it manifests, like I said, either it can manifest as avoiding the baby and not wanting to be near it because it stresses them out, or it can be that they like smother the baby, not smother, but like are just very, very, that's a whole thing, but just like are very, very, very hands-on and don't let other people around the baby. And one thing that they were saying is problematic about that is that a lot of times people will see a dad who's like, I've got the baby, and they'll think like, oh, what a great dad he is. He's such a great, wonderful dad. When in the meantime, he's suffering like a lot, and he's really struggling with how to parent. in addition to that, there's also a whole other, I don't know if you saw Mike Birbiglia's special yet, but he talks about being like a dad, a new dad. And he hits on this as a concept. There's another thing that happens where like mothers will bond with their babies so naturally because it's like
fathers.
And a lot of times fathers don't know where they fit in to this trio now, and sometimes it's like that's kind of a natural feeling and people can kind of work through it, and sometimes people really go into like a depression about it. So those are all kind of ways that postpartum can manifest in men, and
we do not talk about that.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah,
never heard about this.
It's because we are led to believe that men need to be men and not
that men
feel.
don't have that men don't have any feelings, and that
Right.
and that they're supposed to not have feelings, and if they have a feeling then they're either effeminate or gay or whatever label people put on
Well,
them.
of course, I'm sure if a man stepped forward and said he had postpartum,
I think a lot of women would be like, what are you fucking talking
what are you
about?
talking
Shut
about?
up, sit down. You know, even women
Yeah.
would get mad about that.
right?
And then you can't be heard at all. That was another thing that Matt Brown from She Is Not Your Rehab is saying too, is that you put on a mask when
That's
when people just don't allow you to be seen and heard for who you actually are, and you don't feel safe to be seen and heard, even so you don't feel safe in front of your abusive parent, right? But then you don't feel safe in front of your guy friends because they don't let you express yourself. So then you walk around your life with this fake mask being like, I'm hard, I don't feel anything, whatever it is. And that's just so unhealthy. And that was the thing about with his wife, where his wife kind of came into the scene, and he said, I finally felt seen by her, and she sort of showed me how to like fix myself. But I think that that's also part of this whole movement, which is that's not her job. It's not your girlfriend's job to fix you.
to be your rehab. Yeah.
It's not your wife's job. And he is, I think, aware of that. That's why that's called what it is. And he was lucky that he was willing to do the work on himself, and that she was pointing him in that direction. But I think that that's also what moves me about this topic in terms of like from a woman's perspective, is that on varying levels, I think many women, and I am 100% one of these women, deal with men in their lives who take a lot of their shit out on the women, and then maybe look to the women to kind of mother them or fix them. And the women take on that role and want to and fall into it and want to fix them and want to help them. And it becomes, at best, it's like a codependent relationship. And at worst, it's an abusive relationship.
Right.
And I think that women, it's very, very okay for women to start having boundaries and being like, I can't fix you. So I'm not going to try. And like, you need to fix yourself.
It takes a very brave woman to step forward and actually do that. I know that in my 20s, I wasn't strong enough or didn't understand how to even say that to a man. And not that I was ever, thankfully, was never in a physically abusive relationship, but I definitely was in a verbally abusive one with a guy kind of just, pulling me down and saying some of these really awful things. And I was young. I was, 23, 24 years old, and just didn't know what he was doing. I mean, he probably experienced some sort of trauma younger and then was trying, and he felt awful about himself. Therefore, he wanted to make everybody around him feel awful. Yeah. And let me tell you, I certainly did. And I believed him. But it took good friends to kind of pull me out of that relationship. And for me, being single and then learning to love myself again. And then now in my 30s, I'm great. But, I wasn't strong enough.
No, of course. And I guess I didn't mean to make it sound like, just do it. It's easy.
No. Oh, totally.
So that's great. I think that one thing that would help is if we teach our young female children this.
Yes.
Don't don't even enter into a relationship.
Don't take on.
Yeah. Just know that that's not on you. And then for the boys, of course, even more importantly, we need to make sure that our boys have a space to express their feelings, and we do not shut them down. And we let them. And then if you are a grown man and a grown woman, and you've faced trauma and abuse as a kid in any form, that you start to really work on it. I'm going to go right back to it because I got to say it again. It's not your fault if you've been abused and gone through trauma, but it is your responsibility. It is your responsibility. And if you don't take care of it, you hurt every single person around you and yourself, of course. And I think that goes for all levels. I think that even on small, those people that are kind of annoying on the subway or whatever, just like anybody, the person at work that you're like, I hate that woman. She probably has shit that she needs to deal with.
Right.
And that's why she's so unlikable. You know what I mean? If you're the person that's unlikable, deal with your shit. That's you. Then it's you that I'm talking about. I don't know. But and it's been me. I'm in therapy. Like I'm doing it. I'm doing all the things. If I was the king of the world, everyone would be in therapy. It would be a requirement.
I know. Maybe 2020, I'll go to therapy.
I think it's good for I think it really is helpful for anybody because nobody really gets through childhood unscathed. Nobody does.
Right. Nobody.
Yeah. And if not childhood, then like middle school or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. I call my mom, she'd probably hate me saying this, but she's my therapist. I call her every other day and talk to her. But then, now that we're getting older, she has her own shit to deal with.
Sure.
And it's like, she doesn't want me to call and complain nobody's listening to our podcast. Or,
right.
It's like those sort of things just seem so small.
But, that's a good, the way that you use her, like, not use her. That sounds the way you use your mother.
My mom.
I just mean that your mother has done a good job to give you space where you feel like you can do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And not everybody,
right.
A lot of people do not feel like they have that. So it's, if you do not feel like you have that.
Well, also to have an outside perspective. That's what I keep hearing about, that I might take away from finding a therapist is that somebody who doesn't know my family and just is hearing my side of the story, and that's it.
It's also hard to talk about your mother to your mother because you can't know. And it's not that your mother's wonderful, but everybody's got their things that they want to just like vent about, Of course.
Well, this reminds me of my time when I taught for Opening Act. It's a nonprofit here in New York, and the organization still exists today. I really highly recommend people looking it up, maybe donating some money towards it. Yeah. But basically what the organization does is that they go into New York public schools and they have these high school students join them for playmaking and theater games and stuff, but they're taking their own personal experiences and creating a full-length play from them, and then they perform it off Broadway. So I was a teaching artist for them for 5 years. And it was just so incredible to see the transformation of, we were teaching in the Bronx and like really far deep in Brooklyn. And a lot of these men and women would just show up with so many masks on and especially the young men. And I mean, bless their hearts. It's like in the Bronx, there's gang hazing. And I mean, this sort of stuff that they were just going through was unbelievable and hard to relate to because I just had no...
You hadn't had those experiences.
No, not at all. But the first day that they would show up, so manly, so, no emotions. And then by the end of the semester, these real human beings who were able to show true emotion. And it was because I think, as a teaching artist, we always worked in groups of 3s. It was women and men, and we were able to be their role models and like really show them that it was okay to show emotion. Yeah. And I really truly think that with theater and writing and just being able to express yourself, you can work through trauma. And it's not that we were trained as therapists or anything going in. I'm an actor, I'm a writer, a musician, but we were able to go in and take their stories, their really awful, terrible stories, and give them a voice and make them feel important. And that was the thing that Matt Brown said, is that by going into a barbershop and getting your hair done, it makes you feel seen. Yeah. And I just thought that it builds confidence and it makes you love yourself.
And to be in a community of other people where people are willing to listen to your story in the barbershop or in Opening Act or wherever that community is, that's just really important. And the truth is, I'm always like, therapy. Sometimes people feel like they either can't afford therapy, or sometimes you live in a town where therapy is just like, there's not enough therapists, honestly. And there are people where maybe therapy is actually available to them, but they don't feel like it's available to them because of the stigma around it. So they feel like they can't go because their friends would make fun of them or their parents would make fun of them or things like that. So there's a lot of boundaries that people have a hard time hurdling over.
And I'm so guilty of that. I feel like my biggest hurdle that I need to get over of going to a therapist is that I don't want to hurt my parents' feelings. Like, I feel like if they found out I was going to therapy, they would be, oh, what's wrong? What's wrong? Everything's great. Everything's great. It's like, no, there's some things that need to be talked about,
right,
and that they can't help with.
Right. And that's that's my main message I want to send everybody, is that it's important to just do it for you, But if you, especially with these people that are like that guy that was going to kill himself at Matt Brown's place, he probably wasn't in a place where he felt like he could just walk into therapy and like, oh, maybe I should just go to therapy. Yeah. So the fact that there are what Matt Brown is doing with those barbershops is really important, because it's certainly a stepping stone maybe toward therapy, or if those people never even make it into an actual therapist's office, it's at least giving the space around the people to start doing the work, And so I think that I just wanted to acknowledge that I understand that not everybody's going to just like jump right into therapy for various reasons.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, but it's scary, and it can be expensive to some people. If you don't have the resources, sometimes it's not covered. Although I do think that like Medicaid covers certain, at least in New York, I know that it covers some therapists, and there's definitely more options than you think there are, I think, also out there for everybody. But also if you live in a town that's really small and everybody talks or something and you don't feel comfortable, that makes it harder, Oh, yeah. But that's why it's good to have a community of people just being supportive of each other, period. And the other thing that I thought was really, really important that he mentioned, I just want to make sure that we got this out there, because this also was like, right. When we're talking about like abuse and like physical abuse and these people in the Bronx and in these communities in New Zealand that were, people of color and all this stuff, I think white people tend to be like, that's that problem. That's a problem for those people, that community, blah, 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 blah. He made it really clear, and I think this is very, very true. This affects every single type of person. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter, and mental health affects men. It affects women. It affects children. It affects old people. It affects every single person out there. And so if you're hearing this and you feel like, well, it's not really talking about me, but I am struggling, like this also applies to you. All this applies to you.
And be empowered to do something about it. Yeah. To help yourself.
And any step is a good step. Any step toward help is a good step.
Right. Journal about it.
I mean, even journaling.
Honestly,
that could
be a first step.
Yeah, for sure. If you really are closed off, that's a great first step. And looking into and it hurts. Some of it's hard. It's not always easy work, but it is so worth it when you do it, because you'll see your relationships open up. You'll see your connections to other humans be stronger. You'll be people will want to hang out with you more. I mean, that's all sorts of things change when you especially if you have a family and you haven't been treating your family well, then that can totally morph, your family for the better if you start helping yourself.
Well, I'm excited. Matt Brown and his wife have a podcast coming out about relationships. I tried to find it, but I don't know if it's out yet. It started in December. So I think that they've started recording episodes. So it'll be debuting soon.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's a relationship podcast.
That's really
cool.
Cool.
So I think that'll be really neat to hear. So that could be a first step for some people who have experienced some sort of trauma. Listen to this.
That's a great idea.
Keep listening to our podcast.
Yeah. And then also, just a side note, I just noticed that they have these really cool shirts called "She Is Not Your Rehab," and if you buy their shirts on their website, the money goes into like the program. But it's such a cool, the shirts look really cool, and it's like become such a big catchphrase across the world. They've been selling these sort of like fake shirts on Amazon, and that money just does not go to them. So just be careful if you do buy a shirt that you buy it from their website.
Yeah, I think it's sheisnotyourrehab.com.
Yeah,
so you can go there and follow them on Instagram too. They have some really inspirational things that they post daily.
Yeah,
it's a great organization, and they've been traveling around. They go to different high schools and they talk to young people about this organization and how to help yourself. So
yeah. I watched the TED Talk. Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought this to me. I hadn't heard of it.
It struck a chord with me, so I'm glad we talked about it.
I don't think I'll ever walk by a barbershop thinking the same.
Yeah,
hope so. Forward.
I hope so. Oh, good things are happening in all those barbershops. I don't know what goes on there.
Make our men look hot. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Love it.
Well, you can also follow us on Instagram at Difficult Women Pod. Please follow us. You can also follow us at Reformed Horrors on Instagram.
I'm personally a Marie Merica.
And I'm Katy Frame with a Y, KTYFRAME, not Katy Frame E. That would be with a Y. Anyway, I guess that's it. If you want to send us an email if this is about anything, I don't care. Recipe, you can send us whatever you want. You can send it difficultwomenpodcast@gmail.com.
It's wonderful. Thank you all so much. Again, we're going to be at the Charleston Comedy Festival January 17th and 18th.
Very soon.
You guys. So come on out if you're in that town, or fly in. Hell no. If you fly in, we'll save you a seat.
Yeah.
That's a deal.
Why not? Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
All right. Bye till next time.
Katie is waving.
I am waving.
She's waving.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I'm Harry Mary, like to let my shag like fly. Feel a deep connection to the caveman and his bushy thighs. But it seems my pubic afro's simply out of style, so I thought it time to take the mustache off my sideways smile. Time to take your boon in for some downstairs grooming. Didn't want nothing too crazy, I'll clean up so I intended. So I found myself a waxer who came highly recommended. To my surprise, my new friend didn't speak a word of English, but I think in Russian she said, "Hey, me cooler, look distinguished." She trusted Magda to be smart with her precious lady parts. My legs up in the air, dreaming about my new hairdo. Next thing I know, I feel extra close to where I poo-poo. I quickly try to explain, nothing much, just take a little bite. All of a sudden, I feel a breeze right up my middle. She'd like to file a complaint about her newly hairless taint. Another strip of wax down and I knew I lost control. For the next thing I knew, this lady had ripped me a new asshole. She waxed me bare, left nothing where there'd been hair moments ago. I waddled out that fancy spy and fire down below. I hope you learned your lesson, now you're looking prepubescent. Few days have come and gone since then, I'm still not quite the same. Like my farts are louder now, but I don't need myself to blame. Ladies and you gents out there, remember to watch your back next time you decide that you wanna get your body waxed. If you prefer your lover bare, then you yourself should be prepared to get into that spa chair where they'll rip out all your pubic hair.